All right. Welcome to the Viking Age podcast. I'm your host, Adam Patrick. I'm the not co-editor. I'm the editor of thevikingage.com. And I'm joined here, as always, with my co-host, Chris Schad, who writes for us here at the Viking Age, as well as Bring Me the News and Zone Coverage. Before we start today, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and like this video. And then also make sure to follow the Viking Age on Twitter and Facebook. All right, Chris, I don't have any trivia or fun facts or anything today because I just want to get right into it. There's been some steam within the last, I would say, 48 hours that's picked up about Odell Beckham Jr. being linked to the Vikings. And now there hasn't been really any reports from NFL insiders or anything to lead us to this, but there was a move made by the Vikings on, I believe, Tuesday that cleared up a roster spot, which has already been filled by a former Rams player, not Odell Beckham Jr. But it got people speculating and kind of connecting the dots of Odell's connections to the Vikings, whether it be Kevin O'Connell, Justin Jefferson, Quasido Fomensa. You can even connect the Vikings training staff to Odell Beckham if you wanted to. But here's the latest on the rumors surrounding OBJ to the Vikings. So on today's episode, Thursday, of Mackey and Judd, KSTP's Darren Wolfson said that there has been, quote, no steam regarding Odell Beckham Jr. to the Vikings. And on the same episode, Phil Mackey shared some reckless speculation about a DM he received from a fan who ran into Beckham in Miami before last week's Vikings game against the Dolphins. Coincidence? I don't know. And OBJ apparently told him, this fan, that he'll sign with Buffalo or Kansas City, whoever really gives him the most money. On Wednesday, according to Pro Football Network's Aaron Wilson, the Chiefs are viewed as a, quote, strong contender to sign Beckham. And lastly, Fansided's own Matt Verderam said on Wednesday that the expectation is that Beckham isn't going to sign anywhere until after the trade deadline this season, which is on November 1st. So knowing all that, knowing some connections that Beckham has to the Vikings, should the Vikings even try to pursue Odell Beckham Jr. this year? Why or why not, Chris?
I have a lot of trouble entertaining this idea of Beckham coming here because I actually was going to talk about it on my podcast, which will air tomorrow. And I was talking with my guest and I had Odell on my outline. They're like, yeah, it's probably just a waste of time to talk about that. Let's talk about the other obstacle with Odell Beckham. You mentioned whoever pays him the most money, right?
Yeah.
Well, over the cap lists the Vikings with $862,000 in cap space.
Give it all.
So basically,
give it all to him.
They are Patrick, that SpongeBob meme, where he's got like, I got $3. That's basically what they're going to go up to Odell Beckham with. Now, last year, and I don't know who gave him the most money or whatever, but I do remember he was close to signing with the Packers. And then he decided to sign with the Rams at the last minute. I don't know if the Packers offered him the most money or it was the Rams or whatever it was.
I believe they offered him the minimum, actually.
The Packers offered him the minimum.
That's why he did not.
So yes. that's another strike against the Vikings. Like this is just very hard for me to comprehend. And I know that, like you said, no NFL insider has said anything about Beckham going to the Vikings, and there can be surprise teams, there can be mystery teams, there can be whatever. Jay Glazer was on Fox pregame a couple weeks ago and said, yeah, they just don't have the money for it. Basically, he's like, it's not going to happen. But it is a bye week. We're bored. We're on Twitter. And we're just going to, I guess, make up fake graphics and spread fake reports until he signs somewhere. If I were to entertain it, and again, this is like fantasy world, I would be all for it. If we were playing Madden and we turned the salary cap off, hell yeah, I'd love Odell Beckham on this team. There is a dearth in receiving options right now, not named Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen is out there, but I don't know. And two, you have to consider this from like a personality standpoint. I mean, Odell Beckham was upset that he believed he was open in Cleveland and Baker Mayfield wasn't finding him. we have seen for as well as he's played, because I think Kirk's been okay this year, but he is taking a lot of low checkdowns in favor of wide open deep passes. And somebody like Justin Jefferson's just be like, okay, cool. Yeah, whatever. We'll just get it to me on another play. But like Odell Beckham's going to be like, why the F didn't you throw it to me and check down to Irv Smith Jr. on a screen route? Like, I just, I'm not getting excited until I actually see an official graphic. Sorry, Rasta Pasta or whatever your name is.
Drew,
Yeah,
is it
I
Drew
mean,
Drew Lock to Mini as well?
So yeah. Here's the thing. Like, I'll go on a rant about this. I don't understand why people do that. Like, it's the dumbest thing ever.
The fake accounts.
Yeah, the fake news and the fake tweets and the fake quotes are always interesting. Where it's just like
the NFC North news. Have you seen that one?
They are funny. Like, I get a little chuckle out of them sometimes, but it's just stupid, because then people buy into it, and then like people think they're real, because not everybody looks into things. A lot of people just scroll Twitter mindlessly and be like, "Do you see what Kirk Cousins said about whatever?" It's just I don't know. I think it's dumb, but there's my rant of the day. I'm probably not done, but
we're getting old. That's what the kids do these days.
Get off my lawn.
I think the funniest part about those things are when like people in the comments like reply to those as like them being real, like, oh, I can't believe he said that or whatever.
Bend Over's got the official inside track here.
What's the name of the
Barry McCockiner?
Is
that what you're thinking?
Yes. He's duped a lot of people. Even like
he duped Skip Bayless.
Skip Bayless.
Didn't he say something about like James Harden? Like somebody called him fat or something?
Yeah, he's duped. I believe he's duped the Lebitard show, at least Dan Lebitard. He like was reading something and then he was like, by Barry McCockner, and then he was like, hey, wait a minute. So yeah, there's people out there, they enjoy it. There's people who like that. They enjoy it. It's not for everybody, but there's a group of people that enjoy that. As far as Odell,
Dan Cole was the original guy with that, though. He was the like big fish, just like, oh yeah, I don't know who the Johan Santana is pitching for the Angels, and then idiots would call in. It's a bit, bud. It's a bit.
As far as OBJ to the Vikings goes, yeah, it would be great. Thielen and KJ Osborne, they're not getting open right now. I think it was very telling in the last game, like halftime or whatever, when it was reported that Kevin O'Connell was saying like the receivers they're not getting open. And this was against a Dolphins pass defense that struggled for most of the season so far, ranked near the bottom. I know they had Xavier Howard back, but still they should be able to get open against a defense that's pretty much been gashed all year. But KJ Osborne hasn't done a lot. Adam Thielen hasn't done a lot this year. Irv Smith hasn't done a lot. Like Odell to the Vikings, one, he would come into a system that he's very familiar with Kevin O'Connell. He would come into a coach that he's very familiar with, which I think would help with some of the maybe potential Kirk Cousins issues, where O'Connell would be like, hey, this is what happens sometimes. We're going to figure it out. Don't worry. I got to cover it. Because O'Connell seemed to be someone who can kind of cool everyone down when maybe the pressure gets high, maybe, or the tempers get high, I guess. And then, yeah. And also injury-wise, he's coming off a torn ACL, which he had surgery for in February, which is 9 months ago. It took him a while to come back from the first one. I think 11 or 12 months. So he might not even be ready to play until December, at best. And then the money thing, of course. But I feel like with the money thing, you can always shuffle guys' contracts around. The Chiefs just did this with Travis Kelce, where you just give him his bonus money like ahead of time or whatever. Money can be made if you really want him, you can get him. But it doesn't sound like he's maybe let's say Josh Allen gets hurt or Patrick Mahomes gets hurt. Then I think maybe the Vikings become like maybe a more legit contender. If they're still 7-1 at the trade deadline, Kevin O'Connell's there, Justin Jefferson's there. They're good friends. It's a good offensive system. They would be a contender, and they'd get to play indoors. So like, there's a lot of factors that could happen. But right now, yeah, it doesn't sound like there's anything. It's fun to think about, just connecting the dots. Yes, it's a bye week. We need stuff to talk about. But yeah, right now, nothing. But it's a but. I would keep it in the back of our minds. until he actually signed somewhere. Because last year the Rams weren't even one of the teams that were mentioned as like a possible team that Beckham was going to end up with. It was like the Packers, Patriots, and Chiefs, I think, after he was let go. So we
You
gotta
know,
keep an eye on this still, I think.
here's just something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
And I'm not, this isn't a slam towards Lewis Seen or whatever. I mean, him breaking his leg, you can't really do anything
Yeah.
about that. And he had some setbacks. But the decision to trade down from 12 to 32
Yep.
and pick up 42, and I think I think they traded down. They got 32 and 34. Then the second trade was the Packers trade that net Andrew Booth Jr. and Ed Ingram, right?
Yep. Yep.
Like that trade. Okay, sure. You don't get Ed Ingram, who's your starting right guard now. Okay. But I mean, you have Jameson Williams there. He's coming off a torn ACL. We don't know if he's good or not, but I mean, you can at least, everybody saw this coming with this receiving core.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Jefferson is one of the best receivers in the NFL, but I mean, people look at Adam Thielen. He's not getting younger. Like KJ Osborne, I'm sorry, guys. He's just a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like there's no ascension. There's no 3 deep. There's no any of that. He's just a guy.
That's really funny to think of now. 3 deep when that was being the hype going in.
That was it sure as hell hasn't planned out that way, has it?
Some lofty expectations.
3 deep if we're talking about Justin Jefferson running 3 deep routes on a 3 and out, but that's another
covered by three cornerbacks. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it is interesting to think about for me how things have played out going, well, you could have Jameson Williams in the back pocket. I don't know if he's good, but I mean, then you're not, scrounging through the couch cushions trying to find money to sign Odell Beckham. So
and who knows if they even are. Maybe they still feel confident about their receiving core. They're only 6 games in their season. They still have 11 games to go. There's a lot of time to figure things out, get things going. The whole offense in general has just been kind of stale, other than Justin Jefferson, really. So it's not just Thielen and Osborne not getting open. Kirk Cousins has been struggling as well. So it's a talking point, and I felt like we just need to go over it because it's been in the circles, the Vikings fan circles, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or whatever. But nothing right now, no steam, according to Darren Wolfson. And
follow Rasta Pasta for more information.
All right, let's move on to some Viking stuff. So the Vikings are at their bye now, week 7. I think they're one of 4 teams. I think it's the Bills, Eagles, Vikings, and Rams, I think, that are off this week. So, like, if you're playing fantasy, it's a terrible week.
My team's 1-5. Thanks for bringing it up. But
I do some, like, daily fantasy stuff, and I'm like, cool. I guess I'll play, like, Derek Carr. But, yeah. Not a good week. But the Vikings are 5-1. It's also
bad. Oh,
okay.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say it's also a bad week for Red Zone when that happens because it's just the Vikings are off. It's like, I'm going to watch other teams.
Let's check out Zach Wilson.
Nobody's playing. Yeah. Zach Wilson.
Jared Goff is
waving to some older ladies here.
3rd and 20 for the Lions. Jared Goff. Let's check this out. All right. Let's just go over some stuff with the Vikings so far. They're 5-1. Pretty good start so far. They got 11 games to go. But let's look at some of the players, some of the standouts, maybe some of the more disappointing players from the Vikings this year. Let's start with the offense. Who do you think so far this season has been the Vikings' offensive MVP?
Well, that's easy. It's Justin Jefferson because this offense would be in the tank without him. 684 receiving yards. Adam Thielen currently has 284 at the moment. He's second on the team. 46 receptions for Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen has 29. This team would be absolute trash if it didn't have Justin Jefferson right now. And I mean, I don't know if it's the scheme. I don't know if it's the quarterback. I don't know. Things are going well. I would say they're doing okay. I mean, they're a middle of the pack offense. They could be a hell of a lot worse. Yeah. But everybody's talking about this extra level. Well, when do they hit that? Do they simplify things over the bye week? Because I love the idea of getting Justin Jefferson the ball as much as possible. That is a great game plan if you want to win football games. Yep. But these secondary options have to step up. And if Kevin O'Connell's sitting there going like they're not getting open, like what's the problem then? And why are we clinging to people that were, like Adam Thielen's making how much next year? Like,
yeah, I think Jefferson's the obvious one. He's the clear-cut number one offensive MVP. I think you could make an argument, maybe like a dark. We'll do a dark horse MVP here for Christian Darrisaw. Second year, left tackle, sixth graded tackle on PFF so far, as far as offensive grade goes. Hasn't given up a sack. He's been, he's a big guy, so he's been literally and figuratively huge for the Vikings this year. They haven't had a left tackle like this since
McKinney?
On a good day, I guess.
Yeah.
Todd Stussy. He was a left tackle, right? I think he was.
Yeah,
Was
Ron
Corey
Yeri. That's
Corey
way
Stringer,
back.
Corey
He was a
Stringer was
right
tackle.
tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. It's been a while since the Vikings have had a. I mean, Matt Khalil went to the Pro Bowl in 2012, but he fell off a cliff immediately after that. So yeah, Christian Darrisaw has been playing great. That's awesome for the Vikings, who have had so many offensive line issues over the years. So that's I think that would be a dark horse offensive MVP for the Vikings so far. Who has been the most disappointing Vikings player on offense so far this year?
I think it's Irv Smith Jr. He's got 18 catches, 140 yards, and 2 touchdowns in 6 games so far. Remember when the Vikings took him over A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf and Terry McLaurin? Remember when that happened?
You've
never talked about that. Yeah, I mean, it's a little known fact. I mean, the guy comes in and he's like, I got Hulk on my fist because I'm going to smash things. And like, okay, pal, like his 2 touchdowns have been 1-yard little chip shots like they've been the rest of his career. Again, like KJ Osborne, he's just a guy. And he's in a contract year. I mean, if he doesn't come back, I wouldn't be sad. Like, no offense to the guy, but I mean, he just has not produced. He's fumbling, he's making drops, he's not doing the things that he's supposed to. And after all of the hype last year, where people were talking about his preseason, it's just been interesting to see him come up very short of his expectations. So I would go Irv Smith Jr.
Yeah, you mentioned the guy I'm going to pick is KJ Osborne. I think there was a lot of hype about him going into this season as well. As far as the Vikings are going to use more 3 receiver sets, so Osborne's going to get more opportunities, more targets, and it just hasn't really translated. I don't know if that's him not getting open, if that's Kirk not looking for him, if him not catching the ball. I don't think he's dropped many passes. He had that good game against the Lions when they needed him to score the game-winning touchdown, but really, other than that, he's been pretty quiet for most of the year. A couple catches here and there, but nothing to be too excited about. This is a guy who we thought maybe he could replace Thielen as like the number 2 receiver as soon as this year, but it just hasn't been the case, and that might be part of the problem. Some of the problems that the Vikings are going to try and fix in the bye, see if they can get the receivers more involved. So we'll see. KJ Osborne's my pick. Irv Smith is your pick. Adam Thielen not been too great either. Kirk Cousins been okay. Kirk Cousins I give a break because he's been good late game situations, and he's not really been turning the ball over too much except for that Eagles game really. As far as a pleasant surprise on the offensive side of the ball, who would you go with?
You mentioned him earlier. I think we're going to have a lot of crossovers just in different areas, but Christian Darrisaw, it's a surprise he is this good. I think we all expected him to take a jump. And, you heard the Trent Williams comparisons in training camp, and you're like, okay, that's coach speak. But he has been one of the NFL's elite offensive tackles. You mentioned he's 6th in PFF's pass block rating. He's 5th in pass blocking efficiency. He's only allowed 3 pressures over his last 4 games. And part of that's the competition. But I mean, he squared off against Cameron Jordan in London. So I mean, he's been everything the Vikings have hoped for in his second year. And I think you're looking at a decade-long left tackle, one of those stalwarts on the offensive line. I mean, if you were to pick Gary, what's his name? Gary Zimmerman? I was going to call him Adam Zimmerman, but that's not right. Gary Zimmerman. Yeah, the old tackle that was on the Vikings, and then he got traded to the Broncos.
Yeah.
I
Yep.
think maybe that's the last real frame. And I mean, you were talking about Bryant McKinney a little bit. I think, for as long as he hung around
Mhm.
and like for as good as he was when he was on, like I would put him on the list of greatest offensive tackles. I don't know why I'm defending Bryant McKinney because as a fan, I got very annoyed with his up and down play, but um, you know,
He's now he's what contestant on America's Got Talent. So, um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
right. That's so random.
Used to be a
Um,
Viking podcast host too, didn't he?
correct. I think he still is.
Yeah. Oh,
Um, I believe. Oh, my pleasant surprise. I'm gonna stick with the offensive line. I'm gonna go with Garrett Bradbury. I think he's had a few hiccups recently, but overall this season he's been much better than he has the last few seasons. I think if I told you Garrett Bradbury would be the 12th ranked center according to PFF grades, you'd be like, yeah, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. That is that's higher than any expectations we probably had for Bradbury going into the season. The Vikings were reiterated over and over again. We know we don't need a center. Bradbury's fine, and so far they've been right. Then there's been a couple of games where it's been like, he's still the same Garrett Bradbury where he's gonna let pressure come up the middle and get bulldozed over, but that hasn't been as frequent this year. He's still been good as a run blocker. Now I think the question gets a little tougher. Not a lot, but a little tougher right now. Whether you want to bring him back next year or not, but right now he's been good. It's still early, still 6 games, but right now, Garrett Bradbury's a top 15 center in the NFL, and I don't think anyone saw that coming, heading into this season, so he's been a good, pleasant surprise for the Vikings. Alright, switching over to the defensive side of the ball, I think there's another obvious answer for this, but who has been the Vikings' defensive MVP so far?
Chris Boyd. No, I'm kidding. Zadarius Smith, a lot like Justin Jefferson. He's just head and shoulders above everybody else right now.
Yep.
29 pressures is nearly double what Daniil Hunter has right now. His pass rusher productivity rating is double of anyone else on the team. He leads the team with 5 sacks. He's winning nearly a quarter of the time on pass rushing sets. I was very skeptical when the Vikings decided to sign Zadarius Smith just because that
Yeah.
back is a time bomb, and it still is, but he has been healthy. He has been dominant. He has played through injuries. He has been everything the Vikings were hoping they were getting when they signed him to that contract last offseason.
Yeah, he's the MVP of the defense so far, for sure. It's not even close. Maybe.
I would argue one of them in the locker room too, when you
Oh
think
yeah,
about it.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
he's really taken on a leadership role there. And yeah,
Leadership. He's always seems like he's in a good mood. I'm sure there's times where he's not, but every time he's got to talk to somebody in the locker room or you see him on camera, he's always got a smile on his face, and that looking back at the last regime, that makes a big difference. I'm not even going to like argue with you or suggest anyone else. Zadarius Smith has been the defensive MVP for the Vikings so far, and it's not even close. Most disappointing defensive player for the Vikings so far heading into the bye.
I have Jordan Hicks, third lowest defensive grade on the team. His coverage grade is 79th among 82 linebackers, according to
Oh,
PFF.
not good.
He's a step slow in coverage and just about everything else. At this point, I'm kind of wondering why they just didn't bring Anthony Barr back. I think Hicks is making $5 million. I don't remember what Barr signed for with the Cowboys, but
2 or
I
3, I
think
think.
it was, yeah, I mean, it was pretty cheap, but they must have been kind of spooked by his knee,
Yeah.
is what I'm thinking. And maybe Barr wanted more money, and then it just kind of became obvious he wasn't coming back here. I think having Kendricks and Barr in this, I don't see too much of a difference between Jordan Hicks and Anthony Barr. So, I mean, that's another offseason kind of slip up that this regime had. But the good news is Hicks is only on a 1-year deal. You have Brian Asamoah behind him. I don't know if he'll get more run toward the end of the year or what they'll do there, but yeah, Hicks has just not lived up to my really low expectations for him, to be honest, because like I didn't really think too much of him to begin with.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with another new addition, Chandon Sullivan. I think he's been a
Mhm.
pretty big letdown. I know he has a tough job in the nickel there, especially in today's NFL, but he just hasn't been playing well. Doesn't seem like he's really shut anyone down. Every time someone throws the ball and he's in coverage, they seem to catch it pretty much. I think he's ranked like 90th among corners by PFF grade. And let's see. Yeah, opposing quarterbacks have a 128.0 passer rating when targeting him, and he's allowed 82% of his targets to be completed. So that's not good. And you go from someone like who Mackenzie Alexander, who was like the absolute worst. I understand last year, and Chan Sullivan's been better this year, but not by a whole lot. Um, but the secondary overall hasn't been very good, so it's not like he's so much worse than everyone else. But it's been disappointing because you thought like, okay, here's someone who's been in. I believe he was or he was with Mike Pettin, so he's familiar with that defensive system. Um, but you would think like someone like that would have a better opportunity to do well in this type of defense, and just hasn't been the case. Maybe he'll get better. I feel like both defenses and offenses are starting to show flashes where they're starting to maybe turn a corner. Maybe this bye week will help, but so far I've been pretty disappointed in the play of Chandon Sullivan. Pleasant surprise on defense for the Vikings so far this year.
I'm gonna go with Dalvin Tomlinson,
Yeah, yeah,
actually. I think this 3-4 nickel base has helped him a lot.
yep.
His pass rush grade is 9th among interior defenders. He's got 23.8% missed tackle rate, which we can work on that. But he's kind of an unsung hero for a defense that, for the most part, hasn't lived up to most of the expectations of Vikings fans. So I guess if we're going for a surprise, I'm going to go with him.
I'm gonna go with Patrick Peterson, who I think kind of begged the Vikings to bring him back earlier this year when he was kind of just hanging out, being unsigned. He was like, "I'm still here. You know, I want to return. I don't know if they're going to sign me." But he's back. I think he's been playing well. I don't think there's been too many times where I've seen him trailing a receiver getting burned. He had that big game against the Dolphins last week where he had a couple pass breakups and an interception. And he's been I would say solid. He's not the shutdown corner that he might have once been, but right now, opposing cornerbacks have a pass rating of 55.7 when targeting him. That's pretty darn good. So you can't really get mad about that. And I think he's been good as far as just being solid on the field and just a veteran leader in the locker room on the defense. He's been good as well. I feel like he's helped a lot of the young guys as far as Cameron Dantzler goes and Chris Boyd and some of those guys, keep them kind of in line and help them progress in their careers this year. But yeah, Patrick Peterson, I've been pleased with the way that he's played, but Dalvin Tomlinson as well. I've been very happy with Dalvin Tomlinson this year as well. Anything else? Any other players that have stood out to you this year so far? Good, bad, special teams, surprise.
Shane Wright. All right, I called him that again. Jesus, I don't
Ryan
know why I'm getting that name.
Shane
I'm gonna
Wright.
Google Shane Wright and see who that is. But yeah, Ryan Wright, in the words of Pat McAfee, just effing demolishing footballs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that's probably your special team surprise. Maybe people are a little bit surprised with Greg Joseph. Maybe Matt Daniels is that he's
Yeah.
not having the best year of his career.
Yeah.
Matt Daniels has kind of missed a lot when you think about it, when he talks, his hype up of Jalen Rieger.
Hype up. It was
Yeah,
more than that.
his cue the Val Venus music.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something, the big Valboski. Yeah.
Him, yeah, Rager, Kane Wangu hasn't really done a whole lot.
But I
either.
think the special teams have been fine. I
They've
don't
been
think
great.
they've been
Coverage wise, they've been great.
Yes,
They haven't really let anything.
they've had a couple of slip ups here and there. I'm a little bit worried about the kicker position, but I mean Ryan Wright has just been.
Yeah, I was not expecting him to pin the Dolphins on their own 25 from the Vikings' own end zone.
He is
last
like
week.
Mitch Berger with a couple of Snickers and a late night run to Hardee's, if you know what I mean. But
Yeah. Yeah, he's been good. It was a good decision for the Vikings to keep him around so far. It seems like so far. Yeah, Shane Wright is a hockey player who plays for the Seattle Kraken. So I don't know if there's
Okay. Okay.
any if that rings a bell or anything, but I just googled
Maybe.
it. Young guy. All right, let's look a little bit ahead past the bye week here. Vikings get a week off, get some rest, get ready to prepare for the final 11 games on their schedule. What do you think the minimum amount of wins is that the Vikings will finish with the season? They're at 5 right now. How many more wins do you think that will be kind of the minimum that they will probably achieve this year?
I think they're a 10-win team. Um, at minimum, I should say.
Yeah.
Like we've kind of joked about, the new Call of Duty comes out next week. I heard you can actually get your hands on it now in an advanced copy.
Oh,
So
he got it.
once
He got it already.
yeah, once Kyler Murray is done with the game tonight, he's probably going to go home and it is a home game for
He's got a
Arizona,
game
right?
tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. He might have it like set up in the locker room.
Oh,
Like
for
how
sure.
I'll do it. I'll like download it and then I'll go to bed or something. That way, when I want to play it, I can
Yeah.
just fire it right up. He's probably
Yeah.
got that going on right now.
Oh,
He
yeah.
might be playing it right now. I don't know.
Somebody
He's
downloads
probably,
it for him. Let's be clear. Someone downloads it for him. He doesn't
he
download
doesn't
it
know how to
himself.
use the PS5.
No, I'm just saying, like,
how do you buy this?
He's got people for that to like download all his stuff, make sure everything's ready, so he doesn't just sit there for like.
What do
20
you
minutes.
do for a living? I download Kyler Murray's games on his PS5.
I mean, that's probably a good gig. Like
100K a year at least.
Yeah,
That's
but
what I would demand.
Isn't he on like a e-gaming team or esports team or whatever? I believe he's on
Wouldn't
like
surprise me.
the Faze clan or however you pronounce that phase, or I don't even know. I'm old, okay? I'm 35. I don't know.
They had
about
these drinks in the Quick Trip cooler. This reminds me of this, but like I was looking at like it was G Fuel, and like there's like Fazeberry, and I think one was PewDiePie, and like everything else, and I'm like, so this is like their version of shoes because you can't see gamers playing in their shoes, you just see what they're drinking. So like this whole thing that will make your heart explode. This is how they kind of market with the kids. Like I want to be like, Dr. Disrespect or whatever his name is.
Dr. Doom?
Dr. Doom, the Undertaker. I don't know.
I don't.
Dr. Death, Steve Williams. But like I said, like, so you got Call of Duty, you got Kyler Murray obsessed with that. I think that's a win next week. The Commanders are bouncing checks now, apparently. Their owner is going to get thrown out. Their stadium is falling apart. Their quarterback is hurt. Taylor Heineke is going to kick the door of opportunity down, but I don't think it's going to be enough to beat the Vikings. The Lions are the Lions. You got to go there. Might be a little tougher, but I think that's a game you win. You got to beat the Bears at Soldier Field. I know it's your house of horrors, but they're just, and by the time you get them, they're going to be so defeated and just ready to go play golf somewhere that should be a win for your football team. And then
I don't even know.
I don't know.
I'll look it up.
And then you have the Colts.
Yeah.
Who I put in this category because they're just weird.
Oh, Trevor Siemian.
Okay.
He might be in there by then.
Yeah, I mean the Colts are just weird. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it's basically now Jonathan Taylor is just like choosing not to play in games now, I guess.
What?
Yeah, there's a report or something that he could have played last week. He just chose not to.
Oh,
with his ankle. Which is great for my fantasy team, by the way, which is now 1-5. Have I discussed that enough?
Hey, no one cares about your fantasy team.
Okay. If any of my league mates are listening, trade with me. I want to blow it up.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna go. I said 10 as well, and I listed all 5 of those games that you listed as well. All 5 of those games, though, like if they lost the Vikings, no one would be surprised. I think. Even against the Commanders, because one, it's Kirk Cousins going back to Washington. I think some people are going to be talking about that heading into that game. Taylor Heineke going against his former team. I think it was Luke Braun? I think that brought up about like it's going to be hilarious if Danielle Hunter sacks Taylor Heineke and he does the kick through the door celebration. And I was like, yeah, well then you should play the Stone Cold intro music as well when the glass breaking. Just someone put that in video form. That would be amazing. But yeah, the
Yeah.
command, like I'm not this. We're still like I talked last time on our last episode about like, hey, let's not like figure out where the team's gonna lose or whatever. Let's just enjoy the ride. But at the same time, I'm a Vikings fan, and I'm like, I don't know, like the Bears could Trevor Simeon, he could get hot. I don't know.
Only Vikings fans have that thought. Like,
Oh,
only any
I
other
don't know.
team, it's like, we got this. Now it's like, oh my God, the backup's in.
I don't know. I want to get to that point because I feel like teams like the Bills and the Chiefs were at that point at one time a couple years ago, and now they're like, we got Mahomes, Allen, we're good. We don't need to. Josh Allen, by the way, watching the Padres in San Diego. Uh, just want to throw that in
Is
there.
he from California or what?
Yeah,
Just
he's
flew
from
on out there.
California, and
Okay.
I want to say Trevor Hoffman, who used to play for the Padres, apparently married
Was he
a
at the game?
Trevor
They
Hoffman.
don't show him at games. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Like
was there.
Trevor Hoffman.
Are you
Yeah,
being
I'm being facetious
okay?
because
Yeah,
like
yeah,
they showed him like 20 times during
yeah.
game 4. And
He's
then,
a Hall of Famer.
oh, he's
Uh,
awesome. I love Trevor. Hell's bells, man.
yeah.
But
He was there. Apparently, he married a former Bills cheerleader. He's like a Bills fan or whatever. So I guess they linked up.
hmm,
So that's why Josh Allen was there to watch the Padres come back from down 4 and win
is
the
that
game.
is that what's in?
What? What?
Is that what's in, as they say over there, apparently?
What? Being a Bills fan?
This is going over your head. I love it.
Yeah. I don't.
The group of dads that was just like, that's what's
Oh,
in.
yeah. I blocked
Like,
that.
somebody need to come get their
No,
dads,
I
like, at that point and
I
be like,
blocked.
Dad, yeah,
Yeah,
we need to go.
no.
Thanks
I
for the
blocked.
tickets.
I've already blocked that out of my mind.
Yeah.
All right, but back to football. Maximum amount of wins the Vikings can finish with this year. You think?
14.
Oh yeah,
I wrote that number down and I'm just like, that seems really high, but they're
it
already
is.
5-1
Yep,
and they would need to go 9-2 the rest of the way.
yep,
You got games against the Giants. You could win that game.
yep.
The
At home.
Jets, you could win that game at home.
Yep.
Dallas, you could win that game at home.
Yep.
New England, I am very paranoid about picking the Vikings
Zappy.
in that game. Well, and Belichick too. I mean, every
Yeah.
time he comes to Minnesota, something bad happens. I remember going 2006, the Vikings were 4-2. They played the Patriots on Monday Night Football, and I went to that game. And Bill Belichick spread us out and kicked our ass for 60 minutes. I think it was like 34 something or something like that. So not good. And then the second time he came to Minnesota was at TCF Bank Stadium.
Yep.
And that was the game that put Matt Castle on the shelf for good and put Teddy Bridgewater in. So yeah, there was that. So and then you got the Packers, who I don't know what's going on there.
I don't think
I
they do.
assume I think the Packers will turn it on eventually, but I mean, you could also win that game in theory.
Yep.
So I mean, I think they go 3-2 in those games. They might, if they do that, they'll have 13 wins. And they'll have 14 if they go 4-1. So I don't know. I mean, it feels like I'm being a homer by saying that, but they could finish with 14 wins. And if they do that, they're going to have a very good chance of having home field advantage.
Yeah. Listen, I asked for the maximum. I didn't ask for you to give me like the record you actually think they're gonna do. I will in a little bit, but I asked for the maximum.
17 or well, actually they can't win 17
Technically, the
anymore.
maximum is 16, but I don't think they're gonna get that. I also put down 14. Keep it boring. Yeah, I think that Bills game, like, it's gonna be if they win that game.
Oh, it's on. It's
Yeah,
on if they beat the Bills in Buffalo. Like,
yeah, like, uh, I chalk that up as a loss. But here's what would happen: the Vikings would lose. It would be like a scenario where like the Vikings lose to the Commanders the week before and then they beat the Bills. It would be weird. That's maybe not. Maybe this is the new Vikings. They don't do that stuff anymore, but maybe they do. But yeah, I've got the Bills as a loss, and I have the Packers as a loss in Lambeau. I know they're not as good right now this year. I don't really think they know what's going on, but Lambeau's a tough place to play in. What is that? Is that game in January? Yeah, I think
yeah, New Year's
it's
Day.
it's January 1st. It's 4:25, so the sun is not gonna be up. It's gonna be cold. Uh, So I just that favors the Packers, I feel like, most of the time. So that's gonna be tough. So I just have that up as a pretty guaranteed loss, that one. So 14, yeah. I agree with you. Now, final record, what do you think their actual final record will end up as right now as we're heading into the bye, 5-1?
Well, I tipped it a little bit. I think they'll be 13-5. And that seems insane to say, but 7-4 the rest of the way, that's doable,
13 and
right?
4?
Yeah, 13. Yeah, 13-4, I guess that would
Okay.
be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be 7-3. Okay, maybe that's a little well. And like I said, there's 5 games they should win. That gives them 10. If they go 3-2 in those other 5 that I mentioned,
Yep.
they're going to be, 13 win team.
Yep.
So that's what I think is going to happen. I think that they'll win 13 games. I think they'll win the division. I think they're on track for that. And
Yep.
then you go in and you see what happens. This is what they wanted. This is what everybody wanted to happen. So we'll see if they tighten the screws over the bye and make that happen. But
Give Kirk another extension.
oh my.
I got
What? If they can get their hands on Florida man, Anthony Richardson,
yeah.
I do it.
There's a lot of quarterbacks they can go after this year, I feel like. Do they want the mayonnaise guy or whatever, the guy who eats like banana peels? What's the guy from
Will
Kentucky?
Levis,
Yeah.
Kentucky.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a
They
character.
say he's got a cannon of an arm, but
He's a lot of people are comparing him to Josh Allen already. I'm like, okay, great. I have them at 12-5. I have them losing to the Bills, Packers on the road. One of the Pats, Jets, Cowboys games. I just feel like that stretch of 3 games is too hard to win. All of those. Maybe I'm wrong. I would happily be wrong. And then just another random game, random loss to like the Lions or the Commanders or Colts or whatever. Like it happens. Sometimes you have a bad day where things just don't go well. The Vikings particularly have these at least once a year, and hopefully that changes. But I have them going 12-5, which is still respectable, and I think it will still be enough to win the division. I don't think that they will be the 1 seed. I think 12 wins isn't enough to do that. I think you got to win at least 13 this year. So 12-5, I have them going for the rest of the year. Is there anything else you think you need to talk about or predict? Or are you good?
I mean, there's nothing off my chest now. I'm not really. There's nothing really upsetting me with this team. I'm just ready to kind of take the week off.
Isn't
I
that
think
weird?
everybody's got a chance. Like the cool thing about this week is I think everybody has a chance to exhale. We were ramping up for the season, ramping up, then the big refill, then we go to London, then we come back, then we fly to Miami, get on the jet. And I think this is a good time for
Yeah.
the bye week. And everybody just goes, ugh.
Here's a
And then
question.
you kind of look.
What do you need to happen for the season to be viewed as a success? You need
Coming
to
into the year or
you
right
need
now?
right now. It's different right now. Do
Win
you
a
need them to get
playoff game.
just a playoff game? You don't need to get them to get to the NFC Championship?
I think if they win a playoff game, they go to I'm trying to think about it here because
Mhm.
if you're the 2 seed, you get a home game at home, win that playoff game. So yeah, win a wild card playoff game.
Yep.
The next year or the next week in that divisional round, if you're at home, you need to win that game too.
Yep.
So it depends on where they wind up
Okay.
seeding. If they're the 3 seed and they win the first game, drop the second game, I mean, it just depends on it depends on what happens at the end of the year. Like if you could tell Kirk is just not getting this offense,
Yep.
if he's playing like he is right now, I think you absolutely have to look at one of the quarterbacks in the draft, even just to take them and just if you wind up doing a Jordan Love pick, who cares? Teams are taking quarterbacks all the time in the first round.
You gotta take a
Steelers
chance.
Steelers took Kenny Pickett. They're going to have a top 5 pick in the draft. They're going to be like, well, I mean, they're not going to be like, well, Bryce Young is in our lap, but we're going to stick with Kenny Pickett. No, they're just going to say, screw it. So I don't know. It's it's just like busting on Lewis Cine, isn't it? Not that Cine is guaranteed bust. It's not looking good, but
I will tell you this right now: Kirk Cousins is projected to have over 4,200 yards passing, only 26 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. So those are numbers that we're not used to seeing from him. But at the same time, if it results in the Vikings winning, I don't think anyone's going to be too sad about that. But yeah, for success for me, I agree with you. It depends on the situation that they get into. But right now, with the way that they started, as far as just this season was a success, I think they got to make the NFC Championship. But just to me, it doesn't have to be to anyone else. But I think like the way that they've started this season, the expectations that are now set for them to not make the NFC Championship I feel like would be a disappointment for them, for mostly for them, because they're playing at a high level right now. They're 5-1. They're the second best team in the NFC, so the way they're playing right now, they should be able to get to the NFC Championship. Whether they win that or not, I don't know, but that would be a success for me. And then obviously it would be I think the only way this season could be disappointing is if they miss the playoffs. I feel like that'd probably be.
Yeah, I agree.
Which can happen.
We've done it. We've done it.
All right. That's enough for us today. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to this channel and like this video. Follow the Viking Age on Twitter and Facebook. The audio version of this podcast will be available by tomorrow morning on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. But until next time, Chris and I talk to you later.